What's up, everybody? This is the Four Horsemen Fantasy Football Podcast. My name is Josh Romine. With me tonight, I got Joshua Van Cleef. What's up, dude?
What's going on, everybody?
Got Brent Walker. What's up, man?
Hey, how's it going?
Great. And Alex DeVenny Stoner. How you doing?
Hi, I'm doing great.
Awesome. Well, we are going to be talking NFC West breakdown tonight. We're going to do that. We'll do our fantasy stock watch. We'll get into a little new segment that I kind of made up called Would You Rather. That should be fun. And then we'll break down our teams. So let's go ahead and start off with my random question of the night. And since it's draft season and I've been doing buku drafts, I want to know what your guys' favorite position to draft out of is. A 12-team league. Sorry.
Sixth.
Yeah.
Sixth?
Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
I like to be right in the middle. I hate snake drafts. I've never liked them. And if you're in the middle there, that's like if it was just a standard draft, and I prefer it that way. Because you're kind of, if you're on one end or the other, you can lose out on a lot of players because all of a sudden a run can happen on tight ends or a run on wide receivers or quarterbacks. And if you're right smack dab in the middle, you can be a part of those and actually kind of, pick the players you want. By the time a run hits, you might be out of luck if you're drafting first or last in a round.
Right. Well, before I give my opinion, Brent, where do you like to draft out of?
In the years past, I've always hated drafting in the middle, but this year in particular, I seem to have done a lot better drafting in the middle, but I've always preferred drafting on the ends, only because I like being able to pick a couple players right in the same group or same pack, or you can actually control the start of a trend.
Yep.
Or, after all the tight ends are gone, let them take all the tight ends. I'll take the running back or wide receivers at the end of that or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I like being third has been my spot this year. That's where I've loved to draft from. I've drafted my best teams, I feel like, from the third hole. And being on the end, I feel like you just have so much more control over your draft. I don't mind being in the middle, like you said, guys. You have a consistent pick. You don't have to wait a super long time.
Yeah.
But you kind of just have to take what comes to you. You almost control it a little bit more. You end up reaching more, I think, on the ends, but you also end up getting that value that falls. It just kind of seems like it works out that you have that kind of spectrum of control at the end of the drafts. But
if I want to get sixth, I think I would like 12th. I think I like that churn. I think you can get some decent things with that churn, but I think just six has worked out best for me just because it's consistently you're falling within getting those consistent players.
Well, it's actually nice. I mean, if you're like me, I like to draft running backs. I mean, I like to have as many running backs as I possibly can. And now with the drafting style of, you've got wide receivers, there's 3 wide receivers, 4 wide receivers. They go ahead of those top name running backs. That means in the middle of the first round or even at the end of a first round, you end up getting a stud running back. 4 years ago, you weren't getting a stud. You were grabbing a wide receiver and, you were getting, a Julio Jones or something like that, just a couple of years ago. But now it's kind of pushed a lot of those running backs back, so you're getting great value out of them.
And it's nice, too, because those wide receiver is so deep. It's so deep. You have how many different number 1 and number 2 relevant wide receivers now. So even to get those top-name running backs in the middle of the first round, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, guys, well, let's go ahead and get into our fantasy stock watch. The news topping off tonight is stock is down on Teddy Bridgewater. I feel bad discussing his fantasy value after something bad happens, but
he's going to be okay. He's going to be all right.
I know.
I feel better that he's going to be all right that we're talking about this.
Okay, good. Well, multiple reports have said that Bridgewater has suffered a season-ending ACL tear, and reports say that teammates were throwing up on the sidelines upon seeing the injury. It was a non-contact injury, so it's yet to be determined what actually happened to the third-year cornerback. There has been a little bit more stuff coming out since we even wrote this headline. They're saying that it's a dislocated knee and that he did completely tear his ACL, but that there was no nerve damage. So that's it's definitely a good thing. But so like I don't think any of us were depending on Bridgewater to be our starting fantasy quarterback. But what kind of relevance do you guys see this having effect on the Vikings offense?
I mean, oh, go ahead, Josh.
I was just gonna say, I think AP is gonna be fine. Um, they may stack the box more. If they can get a competent quarterback in there, it might actually help Treadwell. But I really think it's going to hurt the passing game as much as Alex is probably going to say that he's not that good as a passer. But still, knowing Norv Turner's offense, knowing the system, understanding what they have, I think it's going to drop down Stephon Diggs and Treadwell's stock a little bit. Bridgewater's actually having a good camp and a good preseason. And a lot of good things, a lot of big talks were coming out of there. That big expectations from the Vikings on Teddy Bridgewater this year. But I mean, I think AP will be fine. But I think that the receivers do take a hit a little bit.
I honestly, I kind of feel the opposite. I think that whoever steps in is going to be better than Bridgewater. I think that he is a garbage player. I don't like him at all, and I do not wish this on him. So that's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that if they were to go out and let's say they get like a Colin Kaepernick or a Mark Sanchez, honestly, with Mark Sanchez, I think that that's pretty much Bridgewater's ceiling is a Mark Sanchez kind of player. I mean, I think the best he could possibly do is be Alex Smith. I don't think there's anything that says that he could be an upper echelon quarterback. I think that if they bring somebody in that has a decent arm like Kaepernick, as long as he doesn't, flake out and say that he's got sore arms or something like that, whatever. I see the wide receivers doing better than what they would have under Bridgewater.
Yeah, like Kaepernick, if he wouldn't have all this dumb crap going on right now, and I shouldn't say it's dumb crap because I know what he's doing, whatever, he's standing up for what he believes, but he's drawing all this unnecessary attention. Like, he could be competing for a starting quarterback job. I feel like he's just kind of given up on San Francisco, so
yeah,
he could be a good fit in that Vikings offense, I feel like.
Yeah.
Brent, so who would you like to see take over that team?
I think it's too soon to tell right now. I kind of lean towards Alex's side of it, though, where he wasn't really a fantasy relevant option. He just wasn't. He's a good game manager, like he's been saying, but you bring in another quarterback. Well, right now it's Sean Hill. It could be someone different here coming up, but I feel like they could possibly spark that Vikings passing offense a little bit better than what Bridgewater could, depending on who comes in, I guess. But, I just think the running game is going to be just fine. Defense is going to be fine, but I think they might be playing from behind a lot in games now instead of the game manager that Bridgewater brought to the Vikings offense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Sean Hill has shown good spots once in a while. I mean,
he was behind Foles. Is that where he was before? Where was Sean Hill at?
I mean, he's been everywhere. He was with Detroit for a while. He was San
Detroit
Francisco
was the last
for a while.
Did he not play for St. Louis? Am I thinking of another?
No, you're probably right. I thought it was behind Kurt Warner and Mark Bulger back in the day, though.
He's that old?
Maybe.
Yeah, he's been around for a while.
Damn, I did not realize he was that old. All right, well, let's jump from one injured quarterback to another. Stocks down on Tony Romo. Romo is faced with missing up to half the season after a compression fracture in his back. Romo hasn't played 16 games since 2012 and only played in 4 games in 2015. Another guy, you don't want to see him get injured, but I don't think anybody was surprised. I was watching that game on NFL Network when it happened, and I saw the hit, and the announcers were like, "Oh, no Cowboys fan wants to see this." And he got off to the side, and then they thought that he might be able to come back in the game even, and then after they ran their MRIs, came back that he had that broken bone in his back. So is he done? You guys think Romo's out? He ever going to be able to come back?
I think he will. It's a high-powered offense when everyone's healthy, but at the same time, Dak Prescott is playing so phenomenal right now, and I know it's preseason. He's played a lot with the ones, though, in this preseason. He's played against some good defenses, against Seattle, against St. Louis. I mean, he's doing well against number one defensive players in preseason too. But the ability, I guess, for him to get the ball to the right players and the eyeball test, he looks good on paper and the eyeball test.
I mean, yeah, I have a hard time saying anything nice about the Cowboys because I hate them so much. But the fact is that you have a guy in Tony Romo. He is in his last couple years. He is beat up constantly. Then you've got this new guy that, as we said, it's preseason. We got to kind of pump the brakes on anointing him at this point. But if he does well, I don't see them going back to Tony Romo. I think that's kind of, which is kind of funny because, I mean, how Tony Romo rose to what he is now. I think it was Bledsoe that he was Bledsoe's backup, and Bledsoe, I can't remember if he got hurt or if it was just bad quarterback play, and he came out of nowhere. Like, Romo was an undrafted free agent. Prescott looks really good with the players that he was playing with and against the number twos or whatever. If he is good, I don't see them giving up the job. That's just kind of how this game works, honestly.
Yeah, I could see it. Like you guys said, we don't want to be quick to anoint him. I think that he's already climbing draft boards. People are drafting him right now, as a fill-in for Brady. With him missing the first 4 games, they're saying that he's a great fill-in. The Dallas offense is high-powered. Do you think that affects Zeke's stock at all, or does it make it better? Or do you think they're going to completely try to stack the box? What do you guys think on that?
I really think the running game is going to be just fine. If they might even put even more focus on it. Maybe they'll run a few more times per game, but Dak Prescott can get the ball to the wide receivers, though. We've seen it, so.
I mean, do you really consider the Cowboys having a high-powered offense? They have 1 wide receiver and a running back.
When everyone's healthy, Dez is scoring touchdowns.
That's one player, though.
Okay, but you at the same time, Dez Bryant is going in the first, second rounds of fantasy drafts.
Okay.
So is Ezekiel Elliott. The running game, the offensive line, the wide receivers, the pass-catching corps. I mean, Jason Witten's old, but I mean,
But do you consider the Bengals a high-powered offense?
The Bengals, yeah. They've got a tremendous running game. A.J. Green's still going in the first, second round.
Yeah, but, I mean, when you have 2 or 3 players, I don't know if I consider that a high-powered offense, though.
Like, what do you consider a high-powered offense?
I don't know. When you've got, honestly, I would say right now Jacksonville. I mean, they've got so much depth. They're good across, but they've got 2 wide receivers that are fantastic. They've got now 2 running backs, and they have a great quarterback. I think you need more pieces than 1 running back and 1 wide receiver. That's not a high-powered offense.
I don't know if T.J. Yeldon's better than Alfred Morris. There, I said it.
Wow,
dude, I don't know. Like, you can say that, and you love Jacksonville so much, and I get what you're saying. Alan Hearns is better.
Oakland has a like an up and coming high-powered offense. I'm not saying that they're there yet. I'm just saying when you look at the Cowboys, it's so one-dimensional. Like that's why they were terrible last year. They had a great running game, but they couldn't get anything going. Like, one player gets injured and your season's over. That's not a high-powered offense.
But what we're saying is when Dallas is clicking, they're scoring a lot of points, which makes them a high-powered offense, in my opinion.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like they're putting points
I get
up.
what you mean. I don't know. There are other teams that I feel like are a legitimate high-powered offense, and Cowboys just have 1 really good wide receiver.
I mean, that 1 really good wide receiver opens up other options. Like, that's where I don't think Alan Hearns is that great. I know that I'm in the minority on that. I just don't think he's that good. Like, I don't.
What's your hate with Jacksonville tonight?
Yeah.
No.
So much hate. So much hate.
I love Allen Robinson. Like, he's actually becoming one of my favorite players. I don't think they're that high-powered. Like, we'll see what they do this year, so it'll be interesting. Let's move on. Interesting. Stock is down on Geno Smith. Surprise, surprise. it's becoming more and more. We dropped the Stephen Ridley news for Geno Smith.
I was sorry. Well, the quarterback, Stephen Ridley, who knows what he's going to do?
My God, it's becoming more and more apparent that Smith will only make the team if the Jets decide to keep 4 quarterbacks on the roster. In preseason play, Geno has struggled, while second-year quarterback Bryce Petty has excelled. I read that same thing. I mean, Geno Smith, maybe you could see him going to Minnesota if he gets cut.
I kind of feel like they're the same caliber quarterback.
Yeah, honestly though, like, would he fit that scheme? Like,
game manager, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, because I don't think they were expecting. They kept coming out and saying that they were expecting a ton from Bridgewater, but they haven't shown that yet. Like an actual play. So I kind of feel like they're maybe saying he needs to be more of the leader. He needs to be more of the the voice in the locker room, things like that. And I don't think that you're going to get that from Geno Smith. I think they need a leader, and I don't think you're getting it from Geno Smith or Colin Kaepernick or Mark Sanchez. They do have an issue now where they have to put the right person in place that's going to keep the team whole. But yeah, I mean, it is a possibility.
Minnesota has, a great coach. Zimmer's an awesome coach. I mean, he's a great leader. So hopefully he can pull that. Van Cleve, Geno Smith, last year preseason was beating out Ryan Fitzpatrick for the starting job in New York before that whole thing transpired, and he got punched in the jaw and almost died. So, like, what do you think about this?
Well, my feelings on Geno Smith is he's the worst quarterback in the league. It was pretty crazy because he was playing a little bit ahead of Ryan Fitzpatrick, and I don't know if it's just because he was there before, I guess not really knows the offense because it was a different offense. But he just is something familiarized with, and not sure what what Ryan Fitzpatrick could do with the new offense. But there's news coming out. I'm actually kind of surprised, but not surprised, because him being they're the Jets and they're being the system second year that he's losing out to Bryce Petty. I can see them not dropping Hackenberg since they spent a draft pick on him this year. So I could see him. I mean, but like I said, it's shocking, but it's not shocking because I know he's not that good. I think really his problem is his mental. Like he's confidence. If he loses it, then like he starts playing horrible. He's got other mental aspects of the game that I don't think it's up there. He's got ability. He's got talent. He's got some good athleticism, but I don't think that mentally he's a NFL quarterback, and I think that's why you see him failing now.
Yeah, and that's important for NFL quarterbacks to be mentally strong. If you get in a game and you throw a pick, you gotta be able to turn around and forget it. I don't know if Geno Smith has that. That'd be the thing I worry about.
No, and you can just see like if he gets if something's not going his way, like him starting to lose his feet or losing his ground on to Bryce Petty and like that. I don't think that. I think that really plays an effect on him. So I really think that it starts playing in his head. So he's not playing as well, or he's making more mistakes with that. And so I really think that has to do with why he's fallen on the depth chart.
Well, and I mean, do you ever see Tom Brady getting punched in the jaw by his teammates? I mean, that guy isn't a leader.
I mean,
nobody punches the team leader in the face.
In Geno's defense on that, I think that dude just punched another guy for the Bills. I read that. So I'm not kidding. He legit punched another teammate in practice.
Cry out loud.
So like,
stop handing out money.
Just sounds like a terrible dude. But
man.
Anyways, Brent, not that I don't want your opinion on this, but I don't want to talk about Geno Smith anymore. Let's move on to you can talk first on this piece of news.
I'll just say I concur.
Perfect. The stock is up on Paxton Lynch. Per Alex, the quarterback race between Mark Sanchez and Trevor Siemian has been hard to stomach. Neither can get much going, although it was just announced that Siemian will be the starter in Week 1. Lynch may take the starter job sooner than later. I think that's they have both looked pretty terrible, Sanchez and Siemian, in the preseason. Brent, what do you think about it? You see Siemian holding on to that job for very long? Could you see him coming out and being successful right off the bat and kind of keeping that going?
Maybe it's in the beginning he will. I read some articles about how he was trained by Peyton Manning late last season to take over the starter role over even Brock Osweiler, which I thought was kind of surprising. He was giving him a lot of tips and pointers and things like that. But I've heard Denver is now trying to shop Sanchez to the Cowboys even, and it doesn't sound like a good situation there for Sanchez any longer. But as far as Lynch is concerned, I think he will be the starter at some point this season. It'll probably be sooner than later, but Simeon is right now in a good position with great offensive talent around him, a good offensive line, and many running backs that could carry that load for him. He won't have to do much, but I think he'll do all right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think that at this point, nobody is going to get attached to Simeon, and I know that public opinion isn't totally what is taken into consideration in these things, but if he starts doing poorly and the boos start coming, Lynch is going to come out sooner rather than later.
Yeah, honestly, like I know we've talked about this before in previous podcasts. I say get him out there and let him play, but they're rolling with what they got right now. I honestly the more I look at, the more it makes sense. Go ahead and run him out there. You're not really gonna hurt anything. You have a great defense. See how it works. If it's not working, then don't be afraid to readjust and change your plan. I think that them actively shopping Sanchez is a great sign for Lynch. So. Yeah. I think it kind of all points to what we were saying before. I thought they would start off the season with Sanchez, but with them both playing terrible, why waste your time?
Yeah.
Move on. All right, guys. Well, that is our fantasy stock watch. We would appreciate you guys getting on the computer, send us an email. We're at the 4horsemenpod@gmail.com. Look us up on Twitter, 4horsemenpod on there as well. And, also stop over on iTunes, post us a review. We haven't got one yet. We got people listening. I know you guys are listening out there. Somebody's listening. So get on there. At least don't give us a 1-star. Get on there and give us a good one. But if you hate it, at least email me and tell me why you hate it. I need some sort of feedback. My mom tells me it's great every week, but I'm getting tired of hearing that. So I came up with a little bit of a new segment earlier tonight called Would You Rather. I wrote down a few things, all draft related, different strategies and just a few different players. A lot of guys that a lot of different people are beating down and talking about, but I want to talk about it too because I think it's fun. So everything I talk about in this is going to be relative to a 12-team league. I went ahead and just decided to put in terms of a half-point PPR because I think that that's a good mix between the two. So first of all, ideally, would you guys rather start your draft with a wide receiver or a running back? And Brent, go ahead and start me off.
Ideally, a running back.
Okay, why?
I just think there is less of the elite ones to go around, and even in half-point PPR where they're actually delivering the ball through the passing game to the running backs more and more each year, I'd rather go with a elite running back at the top than an elite wide receiver. But I understand the argument for drafting an elite wide receiver too. I'd just rather do a running back because of their position scarcity.
Yeah, so you say that even if you have an outside the top 3 pick, would you consider taking a Gurley or a David Johnson before an Odell or a Julio?
I would consider it. In fact, I've done it in, I think, 1, maybe 2 leagues already this season.
Who'd you take?
I took David Johnson in one, and I took Gurley in another.
I like it. Van Cleve, what do you think?
I think I would lean running back too. Most of my leagues I've drafted for, I've done running back first. One being because everybody's taking wide receiver first, and so I'll let them take that. Yeah, I mean it's great. It's great wide receivers, but the value that you're getting running backs at in late in the first round is I like it. And just because one of the things because there are fewer of them, but having a steady core of running backs really can be like a linchpin of your team. It can really help you bolster that because wide receivers can fluctuate. You can get guys later in the draft that can score ridiculous amount of points, but if you have a steady running back, and it's hard to find those guys who are week in, week out, I think that just helps hold your team together and can help you to the championship a lot better.
Yeah, and Alex, I know that you lean heavier on running back early. Say you have the 7th pick, and Brown, Julio Odell go, Gurley, David Johnson, and let's just call it Elliott go. Like, what are you thinking there? If I think are you still looking running back, or are you
Yeah,
looking at one of those?
I'm still gonna be looking running back. I mean, one that just kind of jumps out right away is your boy Lamar Miller. I think that he's gonna be, kind of a focal point of that offense, and I love his potential. And like the other guys said, it's just getting those running backs has always been kind of a tradition of fantasy football in general. And now things have changed a little bit. The wide receivers are going up, but like they also said, wide receivers are so deep.
Yeah.
You can get quality running backs in like the 5th, 6th round. You were able to get DeMarco Murray really late in the beginning of this month, and now he's starting to creep up, draft boards. But
yeah,
I mean, there's something to be said about having a core of running backs that are going to be fantastic. I don't know. I kind of feel like elite running backs are constantly elite, but even with elite wide receivers, there is a reason why they're elite. Like Antonio Brown struggled without Big Ben. You get a really good corner on you that
shuts you down.
Kind of shuts you down. I think running backs have less of those obstacles.
Yeah.
And so that's why I feel more comfortable having a lot of running backs and then taking kind of the depth of the wide receiver position and plugging those guys in. Because if my wide receivers can get around 20 points, that's fantastic.
I think the biggest argument for taking a wide receiver over a running back so early on is the injury risk and the bust issues. I guess the running backs have a bigger chance of busting if you draft one in the 1st round than a wide receiver does. It's more of the safe pick. I think that's why they've creeped up above the running backs so early on in the 1st rounds now. But like everyone's been saying, though, like you want that linchpin. You want that elite running back that's going to score you those points because the wide receiver position is so deep you can get better ones in the 2nd and 3rd round as well.
Well, and like for the last 3 months, like we've been talking up wide receivers, and like I'm talking like all fantasy analysts, like that was the talk is wide receiver early, wide receiver heavy, Hopkins, Green, Dez, all these guys going first half of the 1st round, mid 1st round, but once it comes go time and the drafts start going, I think you guys are probably in the same boat. Like when I'm looking at those options, like I have a harder time pulling the trigger on anybody outside of Brown, Julio, and Beckham. I have a lot hard time pulling the trigger on those guys. So I'm glad to see Miller up into the 1st round. I feel like a proud father. I feel like we did it. We're there. But like
you didn't feel that way with your own kids, but you feel that way with football.
Not yet. I'm pretty proud of my kids, but they're only 6 and 3, so they're not doing big things yet. They will. They're superstars. But like with Miller, early on when I was drafting NFL 10s, even I was getting Miller late 2nd round sometimes, and then even when we were starting up with our mock drafts, Miller was into the 2nd round. Now he's steadily, like when you're looking at that, just you want that stud running back to start your team off. Him moving up there has been, I think, just kind of shows that running back still holds a very valuable piece of our hearts in fantasy football. So, all right, moving on to the next one. So, would you rather draft Cam Newton, Aaron Rodgers, or Russell Wilson in the first 3 rounds, which right now, according to Fantasy Pros, Cam Newton is the number 17 overall, Aaron Rodgers is number 27 overall, and Russell Wilson is number 36 overall? Or would you wait until after round 6, which also, I'm just going off what Fantasy Pros were saying, Blake Bortles is number 74, Philip Rivers is number 85, and Derek Carr is 106, and those are actually the 10th, 11th, and 12th quarterbacks coming off the board. and
I
Van
mean,
Cleef.
personally, like I'd wait. I'd wait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you can get so much more running back, wide receiver talent in those first few rounds, and even the mid rounds. I'd wait on quarterback personally.
Honestly, I think it kind of ends up kind of handicapping you a little bit. Like what Brent's saying is, there are still a lot of really great players in the, second and third round, obviously. I'd rather go out and get those guys and then, honestly, I don't think that the gap is that great between some of the guys you said on the lower end and then the guys on the higher end. I think that Cam's going to have a little bit of a regression year. Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers. I think he's going to be great. But I don't know. There's that's the position that these like upper echelon people get drafted really quickly. I just never get them because I don't want to draft that early.
Right.
I got luck in our MFL draft. And what was that, round 5, I think?
Yeah.
And the only reason I did that was because I just did not like anything that was around that area. So, I went with it. But still, I feel I still only have one wide receiver, And so I think that kind of hurt me a little bit because now I've got to go after a bunch of wide receivers that may or may not make a difference.
Yeah, Van Cleef. Like, what if Cam Newton and Aaron Rodgers fall to that, the 36 slot, which, if you have the first pick, right, that's coming off, let's see, 12, 24, no, that's 25. That'd be like if you were drafting in the 12 slot and you're on your, 3-4 turn, would you want to reach at that point and draft a Cam Newton or an Aaron Rodgers if they fell that far?
So typically how I draft, I don't draft a quarterback early. But I will say one MFL 10 that I'm doing, I actually took Aaron Rodgers. I think he was in the 5th. He fell that far, and I just felt that was a pretty good value for Aaron Rodgers. Yeah. Now, because Cam Newton's been spectacular as far as being, 5 out of 6 years that he's been in the league. I don't think I'd take Luck that high. I don't think third, fourth round, you can still get good running backs and wide receivers there. And it's tough for me to say to pull trigger. The only quarterback that I would say that I feel confident is maybe Aaron Rodgers. And like I said, I took him in the 5th round, which is the highest I've ever drafted a quarterback in the league before, which is crazy. But I still think I got good value because I had at that point I had Lamar Miller and DeMarco Murray. Murray Cooper and Kelvin Benjamin as what I had, so I felt confident that taking Aaron Rodgers, I should still be fine.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you guys. Let's move it on to the next one. So, and speaking of like handicapping your team, this kind of goes right along with it. How would you rather draft Gronk at the end of the first round? Right now on Fantasy Pros, he's number 9 overall in standard leagues. Would you rather draft him at the end of the first round or wait on the tight end?
Wait. Gronk's fell into me a couple times, and I can't take him. I feel that I know Gronk stands by himself by far, but I feel like everybody else in your league, one only person will have Gronk. Everybody else will have about the same tight ends as you have. Yeah. So I really feel like if I can go stronger in a different area, like in more consistent, like with wide receiver or running back, I feel more confident there because there's other tight ends that I think do decent in some weeks and stuff that I'd rather just wait on.
It just really depends on who is left. Now, I have only taken Gronk that high one time, and my team was terrible. Yeah. So and I've done mock drafts where I've just tried it to see what happens, and I just end up with a team I don't like. Like Van Cleef said, after you get past Gronk, everybody has basically the same type of tight end. Like 600, 700 yards, maybe 6 or 7 touchdowns. Average kind of stuff. So yeah, you can reach there and grab him, and then have the best tight end in the league. But then, have you messed up your wide receivers? Have you messed up your running backs? It kind of throws everything off. So I think that tight end's just kind of something you need to wait on as well.
Yeah, Brent, you feel the same way?
Yep, I will not draft Rob Gronkowski in the first round in any draft, and a lot of that has to do with Brady's 4-game suspension. That's my own personal belief. I just don't think he's going to get as many targets or as much production in that to make up that first round value, I guess. So I am actually pushing him back into the second round if I was to draft him at all.
Yeah, like the
He won't
only
last
way.
that far though.
Yeah, I don't know. I've seen him fallen a little bit now towards like if I'm in the 12 slot, I have a lot easier time drafting him if I can lock in, one of my top players and then get him right there on the turn. But even then, I feel I get done and I look at my team and I think of what I could have done, like who I could have taken, and then still ended up with, one of those mid tight ends and been completely happy. But all right, my last question: would you rather lock up your handcuff of the running back that you drafted, or try to snipe another team's prime handcuff?
I was sniping handcuffs left and right. So, I mean, it depends. It really depends. It really depends.
Yeah.
It depends on like if you're going after like a James Starks, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. Dumb.
If you're going after a rookie that has the potential to take over that spot because you don't think that player. I mean, we've kind of talked about Latavius Murray kind of being that player that we're not quite sure how his season's going to go, and so going out and grabbing Washington is kind of something you can grab, sit on. Maybe if you have taxi squad, put him on a taxi squad. I feel the same way about Devontae Booker. I think that he could be better than C.J. Anderson, and I think there are just players. It's all situational. Like, there's no reason to grab a backup. There's no reason to go out and grab Jerick McKinnon, overdraft him, because it's not like Jerick McKinnon's going to take over AP's job unless there's an injury. Right. So it's really situational.
So you're just kind of looking for somebody that could supplant the starter instead of just waiting on an injury.
Exactly.
Brent, what do you think?
I'm personally a believer of handcuffing your own guys. I don't know if sniping someone else's handcuff is really beneficial unless if you're a really good trader or something like that, and if your league has a lot of trading or something like that, then I can see value in it. But otherwise, I hold on.
Yeah, because like when I wrote this question, kind of in mind, what I was thinking, I was listening to another podcast earlier, and they were talking about drafting D'Angelo Williams a little bit higher, using him up for those first 3 games, and then trying to pitch him to the Le'Veon Bell owner and trying to pull maybe a bench wide receiver, like a guy that's like borderline could start for your team, somebody that might pan out. So I didn't hate that idea. But Van Cleve, how about you? Same boat?
Yeah, I only tend to like to get the handcuffs of guys I'm concerned about. Like if I'm concerned that they're injury prone, concerned that they may lose their starting job. Maybe it is those rookies who come in who's been drafted high that you could see maybe taking over a position sooner rather than later. So, I'm not really a proponent of sniping some of those guys unless I really think that they're going to be starting and they can value me more than just sitting on the bench.
I like it when other people snipe other people's running backs because I think it's hilarious and it makes me laugh. So I'm all about other people doing it. I tend not to do it, but I think it's funny.
This is the first year I've ever really done that, and that was just because it was a rookie draft. So I had to draft a rookie, and I locked up my handcuffs as best as I could. I got Derrick Henry to kind of to back up Murray. I drafted Smallwood, although I don't know where he's really at. He's been injured, so I mean, it like I said, it's all situational. Most of the time, I don't. I'm not going to go out and grab, like I said, James Starks or Jerick McKinnon or something like that because it just doesn't have enough worth to sit on the bench, knowing that they're not going to take over those jobs unless there's injury. And there's no reason to draft a backup just hoping for an injury. That doesn't make any sense.
Yep, I agree. All right, guys. Well, let's go ahead and move on to our NFC West breakdown. Brent, I want you to start us off. You have the LA Rams. What kind of questions you got?
The LA Rams, they are the golden child of HBO's Hard Knocks this year.
Still haven't watched an episode yet, so.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've heard it's
Been
awesome.
pretty good. I guess my first observation, I guess, and I don't know if you guys have noticed it or not either, but we'll talk about it a little bit. David Johnson has Chris Johnson. Le'Veon Bell has D'Angelo Williams. You have Freeman, Coleman, Jamal Charles, and Ware and West. Lacey has Starks, Elliott, McFadden or Morris. AP has McKinnon. Todd Gurley is the top-ranked running back, and hardly anyone is talking about his handcuff. Hardly anyone is drafting his handcuff.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that? Like, who is it and why?
Isn't it Benny Cunningham?
Benny Cunningham,
It is Benny Cunningham.
He looks really good.
But that's the thing. Why is nobody drafting or talking about Benny?
Because he's not very
what
good.
Happened? Well, at the same time, how good are some of these other guys? We really haven't noticed a whole lot yet. But
I think that part of the problem is that you had Trey Mason, which, I mean, we don't know what's going on with him. Honestly, he's got to have schizophrenia. I don't know any other way of saying it. But
his mom came out and said he had like post-concussion syndrome or something.
Well, I haven't gone on the ATV chase. I'll tell you that much right now.
Not yet.
But not yet. Well, maybe if that's a good defense, then fine, I'll do it. Probably shouldn't post this podcast about me saying it. But, I mean, you saw a lot out of Trey Mason. And Benny Cunningham was basically just a passing down guy. But I think that Gurley is basically AP. Like, as far as what he is to that team, they're going to plug him in every possible play. He's going to be on the field constantly. So I think that Benny Cunningham, you just don't have to draft. You can just pick him up on waivers. Like, I don't know.
I just found it weird that, everyone knows the handcuff to all these other top name running backs that are going in the first and second round, but the number one running back in the league, Todd Gurley, who has an injury history, nobody's talking about his handcuff or drafting him, and I just thought that was kind of weird. So, but Cunningham is the 83rd running back going off the board currently, which is in round 24 if you make it that far. Just a curious observation, but
I think maybe also too that like when Benny Cunningham had an opportunity, this was a year before Tiger was drafted, that I mean he did all right, but it wasn't nothing spectacular.
Yeah.
I think that was the year with Zach Stacy, wasn't it?
Yeah, and so like I think he's got lost in the mix, and he's not like this young guy, but you have Todd Gurley who is young that we see that made it 12 or 13 games last year, after that injury, that seems to be pretty solid, and he's young, so we may not need to worry about his handcuff. That's what I'm kind of thinking. It's what's happening with him, but you are right. Nobody is really talking about that handcuff.
I mean, Benny Cunningham's only 26 years old. He's not old. He hasn't been around forever.
No, but he's been in the league a lot longer.
Yeah, we know that he's not special. He's been around long enough that we know he's not going to be this explosive player if Gurley was to go down.
Yeah.
I don't think if Le'Veon Bell got suspended, we'd be talking about D'Angelo Williams. Because I mean, what was he in Carolina? I mean, he was all right, but him and Jonathan Stewart split time, so it's just like, But if he didn't get suspended and actually play well behind that line, I don't think that we would be talking about.
Do you think it's the perception of the overall team or the overall offense, possibly? Like St. Louis Rams last year weren't known really for their offense other than Todd Gurley.
Yeah.
So take away Todd Gurley, is their offense even worth having a fantasy-relevant running back?
The Rams, no.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, that's just one of those things that he's not a player to get excited about. And some of these handcuffs, there is excitement. Like D'Angelo Williams, there's excitement because we saw what he could do. We've kind of seen Benny Cunningham in some situations, and he's all right. He's serviceable, but is he going to replace your numbers with Todd Gurley? No. So try to get somebody else that could give you those numbers.
Well, I mean, we're not even talking about Lamar Miller's backup.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's the other. There's 2 running backs going in the first round right now, and that's Todd Gurley and Lamar Miller. And nobody's talking about their handcuffs at all.
Well, I don't think anybody
even know
knows.
who they are. It seems that way.
Well, I mean,
well, the
there's
rookie
Tyler,
Irvin's.
yeah, Tyler Irvin, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then you have Alfred
It could be
Blue.
Alfred Blue. It could be Jonathan Grimes.
But that's the point, is that we don't know who his actual backup is, I don't think. Because I think that we're still waiting to figure out that. And so what if you draft Alfred Blue and then all of a sudden Grimes ends up taking over, or Irvin takes over? I think that's just so murky that nobody wants to mess with that.
We saw it last year.
Yeah,
We saw it when Foster went down. So
yeah,
and they did nothing. Like they couldn't produce anything, and so we were just like, no, we don't want any part of them. So I think that's what we're thinking.
And Houston was still like one of it was like the top 3 running teams, like as far as like the amount of runs that they did.
Oh really?
Yeah, they were really high in running attempts, and they sucked.
Wow.
Alfred Blue is terrible.
Yeah,
he's horrible.
He's awful.
Is he bad?
Bad.
So bad.
All right. Well, Brett, thank you. Do you have any other questions about that?
I was going to ask Alex, who do you think is going to be the quarterback by the end of the year for the LA Rams?
It's definitely going to be Goff. I don't think that seriously. What's that stupid guy's name? I've totally lost his name because he's worthless. Casey Keenum. He is not good. He is not, like, they didn't draft him #1 overall to sit on the bench for an entire season. Not going to happen. Now, a new team in LA, and you're going to say, hey, watch this garbage fire. We're not going to start Goff. No. By week, I think I'm being even a little bit, padding it a little bit, but week 8, I think it'll be
like, why are they doing it? What's the purpose? Why are they starting?
Pretend there's a competition.
Why? Because
he's actually outplaying him right now. Jared Goff in the preseason is like
outplaying Jared Goff.
Jared Goff has been looked horrible.
And Alex, you should look up Case Keenum's stats sometime. But I was surprised when they said it on Hard Knocks, but apparently he holds almost every NCAA passing record. And I was like, what?
Yeah, I know. I couldn't believe that. That's the most bizarre thing about it. Like, oddly enough, Chris Winkie is like their quarterbacks coach.
Yep.
He was a Heisman Trophy winner, and then he was just a backup in the NFL the entire time. Like, how does that happen? Why are there players that are so good in college, and then they know in the NFL you're not going to be good at all? Like,
and Chris Winkie was one of the oldest drafted players in NFL history. I think he was drafted at like 27 or 28 years old.
Until Brandon Wheaton came along and got drafted at 29.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Sorry. Anything else on the quarterbacks?
No, I just don't. I think that if this was in St. Louis, and they got him like at pick 10 or 11, okay, they moved. They need a face of the franchise, and they have it with Gurley. But let's face it, quarterbacks end up being the face of the franchise. They want Goff to be the face of the franchise. And there's going to be no. The leash is going to be very short. I don't see it being, halfway through the season they don't put out. They're paying him way too much money to have him ride the bench.
I get what you're saying, because they definitely want him to face the franchise. That's they going forward with that. I would be hesitant, though, if he's not playing well, that they throw him out there, because that could really mess with a quarterback's confidence.
Well, I think that, he's going to have to lose. He's going to have to learn somehow. But
if they throw him out there too early, though, like without him picking...
I don't believe in it. A good quarterback is a good quarterback. If you can't play the first time you're given the chance, if you cannot, build and do well, you're mentally not tough. I don't understand why there are franchises that are just like, oh, we're going to sit him for a year. Then why would you draft him?
But if you think about, there was a lot of quarterbacks that used to sit behind other quarterbacks that are good. And that's what they used to do a lot of times. Is they would draft a quarterback and let him sit and learn behind a veteran.
Yeah, but that's not the. I mean, on the average, it's not the how the world we live in right now. Like it's
No, it's
you
not the
draft
norm
somebody
now,
in that first. I think that all three of those rookie quarterbacks in the first round by season's end will have played unless there's an injury or something like that.
Well, I mean, they're talking about Carson Wentz sitting too, though.
I know, and I think that's ridiculous. I think that's totally ridiculous.
Just
like
maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah, how is it ridiculous though for them to give him a year to learn the offense, to learn the playbook, and pick up on different defensive coverages that they don't see in the college? Why is it?
You can't learn sitting from the bench. That is not how you learn. You don't learn you don't go to like a class and just sit there and not do the work. You have to be doing it. That's the only way you get better. Sitting around and watching, some who cares quarterback. I mean, I don't want to watch that, and I don't think the team wants to watch that. In the end, they want Goff on the field.
At the same time, what is school though? School's prepping you for work. So basically, why not sit a year for it?
School's a waste of time.
I don't know. I mean. I don't know if I could name one player that was put in the situation, maybe a David Carr, just because he got beat up all the time, but that never got better. So I can't name a quarterback that I think, oh yeah, you should have sat him for a year. No.
Man, if the Chargers would have sat Ryan Leaf, maybe this whole thing would have been different. I'm not buying it either. I think they'll get Goff in there.
Real quick, I think where teams screw up is the situation that like the Bills had with J.P. Lossman and Trent Edwards, where they would put him in, and then he would get beat up for a while, and then they would sit him and put in like Kelly Holcomb, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh no, here you can go back out. That messes with your psyche. Getting beat up and stuff. If you're a competitive player, you're gonna try to be better. And I mean, those. J.P. Lossman was terrible because I think they broke his psyche because they kept pulling him and throwing him back out there and pulling him and then drafting Trent Edwards and then doing the same thing with that. That's what messes up players.
I agree.
I don't have a mic. Just drop it. Who's got
Brent,
next?
I was going to say, Brent, you got anything else or you'll
I do, but we'll save it for another time.
Oh, perfect. I like it. Well, I want to save Arizona and Seattle for last, so I'm going to talk about San Francisco first because hopefully I was going to say that went longer than I wanted it to, so I don't want to really talk about San Francisco for long. I want to know
worst team in football.
Two things. They're terrible. So we know that. Carlos Hyde is talented. He has been concussed, but he's back to non-football stuff right now. So he's progressing good through the concussion protocol. Brent, how do you feel about Carlos Hyde? What do you think he could do this year?
I'm a little nervous about him. I think he's right around that 4th, 5th, 6th round kind of range as far as being drafted right now. But his talent, he's not always been the fastest running back. He's kind of a bigger size running back. I think he ran a 4.6 something at the combine, so he's not real fast. But I think in the Chip Kelly offense, he's going to get a ton of volume because there's not much behind him. You have Sean Drone as the passing down role, but that's about it. They're saying he's the number 2, but Carlos Hyde will get touches no matter what. He's going to get touches. They run a lot of plays, and Chip Kelly uses the running back a ton. But he's on a bad team. So you have to learn how to balance that, I guess. I think that's why it pushes his ADP back so far. If it was an actual good team with a decent defense and a decent offense, you might see him going in the 2nd, 3rd round. Who knows?
Okay, so Fantasy Pros, he is going right around 37. So right around the beginning of the
3rd, beginning of the 4th.
Yeah. Right? Beginning of the 3rd. Or yeah, no, the end of the third. But like I've seen him creeping, especially with the concussion stuff coming out, creeping over there into the fourth. Like I feel pretty good about that. Like
Yeah,
it's not bad if you're
especially
getting him. Go ahead.
especially if you're grabbing like those top wide receivers,
Yep.
and you need something. Honestly, I think there are some great value picks in like the third, fourth, and fifth round for running backs. So if you're going to go and grab the an Antonio Brown or something like that, and then you can wait and grab a Carlos Hyde, get DeMarco Murray, Ryan Matthews or something like that. That's great.
Yeah. Like I think there's kind of just a couple bright spots in San Francisco, and the other one, the more I've seen it in preseason, which I take it for what it's worth, but just like the feeling I'm getting with Vance McDonald, like I feel like he could be sneaky good, like Gary Barnidge type player from last year, somebody that is going to kind of surprise us and could score double-digit touchdowns. If San Francisco can score double-digit touchdowns this year, then like he might have a chance, but. You guys see him, like, is he on your radar for your later round tight ends? And if he is, where would you want to take him?
He's not, but he should.
Yeah.
Honestly, I just kind of forget about the guy. I'll be
Yeah.
completely honest. I mean, he's in a great situation because there's you got Torrey Smith that can run down the sideline, but then you don't have much in the middle. He could end up with a lot of volume, but
Mhm.
he's just a guy that I just don't think about, and that's
Yeah.
my fault. I mean, I think that I would be really happy to have him if I ever thought to draft him, which
Yeah,
I
'cause-
have no stock in him.
Nobody knows about him. Nobody knows his name or anything. He got hurt late last season, which kind of dropped all of his value.
Mhm.
But here's some tight ends that are going before him right now on Fantasy Pros. That's Cameron Brate, Clive Walford, Charles Clay, Austin Safarian-Jenkins, Jared Cook, Ladarius Green still, Zach Miller, Jason Witten, and even the New York Giants rookie tight end, Jarrell Adams.
That makes no sense. I saw that too. Like I just
Kind of weird.
Honestly, there's only one or two guys that I would take over him. Like if I'm really thinking about it, and I think a little bit, and Brent, you and I have kind of talked about this and disagreed on this, is that like because there was Vernon Davis for so long, like to me it feels like the tight end in San Francisco just should be good, which in this case I don't think that's a real thing, but in my head there's this thought that they've been pretty good at tight end, minus the last couple of years. Maybe they can work the tight end in a little bit more, but that's just more of kind of the past decade of San Francisco, I guess. But I don't know.
But is in Chip Kelly's system is a tight end really relevant?
Yes, it is. Zach Ertz last year, and the year before that, it was Brent Selleck and Zach Ertz, and year before that, I think Brent Selleck was a top 12 tight end.
The one thing I will say is that I don't think that Chip Kelly will have as big of an impact with 49ers as he did with the Eagles. I mean, he inherited a fantastic team. I mean, minus the quarterback was a little bit of a question mark, but he had great wide receivers, really good running back, and then he sold them all off, and then couldn't get anything going. So I don't know what he does with a team that is vastly worse. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens with San Francisco.
Yeah, there's not a lot of things I'm excited about, but like I probably got Vance McDonald on over half of my teams. Like he just
really?
ends up being. Yeah, I mean, I end up waiting a really long time on tight end. I can't ever pull the
It's a great
trigger.
pick.
Yeah, I can't ever pull a trigger on one. So like I end up waiting till I draft a lot of Jason Witten this year and a lot of Vance McDonald. Like, and I'd like to put those two on the same team because everybody Jason Witten is old, but the dude can still make plays. Like he can still play. Like he's good, and I think Vance McDonald could be. He has, he's got the body frame for it. He's a big dude, 6'4", 260 pounds. He's a big cat. Like he could step up in that offense and be what Gary Barnidge was last year to the Browns.
Yeah.
But All right. Well, let's not talk about San Francisco anymore because that's
It's
boring.
so bad. They're going to be the worst team in the league, I feel. I don't know.
It's not going to be pretty. But
Blaine
Alex,
Gabbert.
you have the Cardinals, right?
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
So what you got, buddy?
Well, I just read today that John Brown has actually been cleared out of his concussion protocol. So this is a little bit dated, but with John Brown, getting suffering from headaches and stuff, does that frighten anybody from drafting him? I mean, you've kind of got at some point Fitzgerald's got to kind of fall off a little bit, and I don't know if it's going to be this year or not. But John Brown is kind of that home run where he'll go out there and get you a ton of yards off of a couple of catches and get a couple touchdowns, or he won't do much of anything. Does it frighten you on a guy that is like that he's more of a fill-in, not really a starter, unless you have a 3 or 4 wide receiver league? Does that frighten you that it took so long for him to get through this concussion protocol? It was like a couple of weeks, I think.
Yeah, concussions are getting more and more serious. I guess because they're being treated more and more serious. I think they've always been there, but it's been really taken a look at hard by the NFL, and they will be very cautious with that. So it may be just a cautionary thing, and just make sure it gets back. But it's not anything good to see him multiple times. I mean, not multiple times. I would say multiple weeks taking comeback from a concussion. So you never want to see that because they can be more likely prone to another one easily. So I don't like that. As far as Sean Brown's stock, I don't like to draft him early at all. I think he's a very late guy, especially since there's a lot of targets in Arizona. You still have Fitzgerald, you have Floyd, you have J.J. Nelson, you have David Johnson and Chris Johnson. So I think there's a lot of other targets, and for me to take somebody who's a boom or bust type of player right now who's like a number 3, he's got to be like a late round for me, and with these concussions, it kind of scares me away from taking him. But that's just me.
Yeah. Any of you guys have any thoughts about John Brown? Because this next one is probably going to be a little bit more of the discussion part. Okay, David Johnson, either 1 or 2. He's as far as running backs go. However, last year he only had 100-yard game. Are we making too much of an assumption that this guy is going to be absolutely amazing? Because we have such a small amount of info, and so he really didn't contribute until the end, except for a couple of games in the beginning.
This is one of those things, and this is going to sound strange coming from me being a stat guy, but you can't rely on all stats. Sometimes you just, like I was talking earlier, the eyeball test alone, you see this guy, he's ginormous. Like he fits that running back profile, the measurables, the talent is there, which we saw last year with Arizona, but the guy, he has everything lined up for him to have that opportunity to be the top running back in the league. And it's on a high-powered offense, on a team that likes to use the running back in both the running and the passing game. So I'm not worried at all. Last year we saw what he could do. Now he has that opportunity in the lead role all season long, as far as we know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I guess the biggest, we talk about it every once in a while, but kind of the Steve Slayton. There's always one guy that just kind of burns you. And who, last year it was kind of Marshawn Lynch. There are just guys that you draft and they just kind of end up burning you. And I agree with you. I think he has all the talent and everything is kind of lined up for him. But a lot of these other guys, things were lined up for them, and you take it's a big risk in the first round grabbing that guy. And do you like Gurley more than David Johnson? Because David Johnson catches more passes than Gurley will. Why do you think that Gurley is ahead of David Johnson in most respects.
Just because he can run and he's a power. I mean, not power runner, but he's like the AP where he's consistent. He's running, and that foremost, first and foremost, he's a runner instead of a pass catcher. Always adding a pass catcher on is nice to have it. It's an added bonus on top, but you know that he's going to get those consistent yards. I think that's why Todd Gurley is so attractive to me, and he has a larger sample size of him actually performing week in and week out and what he can do. As a rookie, I think David Johnson's more of that explosive, exciting, like lightning type of guy that that if you get him, if he hits, he's going to be great. But but there's a chance that he doesn't, and so I think I feel Todd Gurley is more consistent and and will get those running yardage. Whereas I'm not sure if David Johnson will. I mean, because you still have Chris Johnson there. I mean, he got injured, but he was performing pretty well. He had a rejuvenance. I can't say the word. Basically,
he was rejuvenated.
Thank you. Rejuvenated in Arizona and came back and was looking actually pretty good. And so, will that take away some carries from him? It could be, but that's just one man's opinion.
So, and just what I want to say, first of all, I don't think we can use the consistency thing yet. We've only seen it from one season for both of those guys, so it's really hard to look at it and say, Todd Gurley is more consistent. There's nobody behind him. We just got done talking about Gurley with the lack of people being behind him. Yes, David Johnson had Chris Johnson behind him. I'm quick to read news and initially overreact. I do it because my brain starts thinking, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Chris Johnson was good last year. Chris Johnson was a really good running back in the day. When he was CJ2K, he was the number 1 draft pick. People loved him. Arizona leaned on him early in the season. They worked David Johnson in there. He still caught some balls and made plays. When you watch David Johnson play, you can't help but think that he looks special. He makes plays. Even this preseason, watching him run, he looks bigger to me. He looks like he's running more powerfully, and he still has that agility. I'm really close on Todd Gurley personally. Just with everything that Arians has come out and said, I'm almost willing to just fully put myself on that bus at this point. He makes me pumped up. He makes me excited for football to start because I want to see what happens. And that's what's fun is we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, both are super close, in my rankings too. I would say I put Gurley above David Johnson in standard and half-point PPR, and then in full-point PPR I put David Johnson. He's probably I think he's my number 1 ranked in full-point PPR. But another perspective is when they get inside the 5-yard line, and I compare both of these running backs, I think they give the ball to Gurley 3 straight times, whereas Arizona, even being a better offense, I don't know if they're giving the ball to David Johnson every time. It might be a 50-50 split where they might throw a screen pass to John Brown or a slant to Fitzgerald. Who knows?
See, but we just
don't know in Arizona.
We were talking high-powered offenses before. Arizona is what I think of when I think of a high-powered offense.
Oh, absolutely, because of the opportunity to be in scoring chances.
And that's what they're going to have. I feel like that's what they have over LA. I feel like Arizona is going to be putting themselves in a position to score way more points. So even if, Arizona is not going to give the ball 3 straight times to David Johnson, he is going to be in those positions more often to where that can outweigh that aspect.
Because basically, you're right. LA doesn't have a strong team yet. It kind of remains to be seen what we're going to get out of the quarterback, whoever it ends up being. We don't know what's going on with their wide receivers. We don't know what's going on with the tight end position. We only know that Todd Gurley is there. And when you only have a running back, that might cause some problems. They can stack the box. They can, LA just doesn't make it to the red zone. So, yeah, it's one of those things that you want your running back on a good team because then they won't be playing behind and having to pass a lot to catch up.
Yep. I love David Johnson. I'm just going to say it right now. I think I'm in love with him.
I'll be in love with him as long as he does well. not that
Yeah.
I'm going to be really upset.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Alex. Do you have anything else for the Cardinals, or?
Nope, that's it.
God, I'd love to talk about Michael Floyd, but let's move it over to Van Cleve. You got Seattle, buddy. What kind of questions you got for us?
Well, I'm gonna kind of do something a little different. I got one question. It's gonna be about receivers, but because especially before the podcast, we were kind of having a good debate about it. But then also, I want to say, do you guys want to go running back or quarterback as far as the direction you guys want to go?
With you?
Yeah, well, like for me, I got a question for both. I just want to know what direction you guys would like to go. Kind of balls in your court. Do you want to go running back or quarterback? What do you guys think you have a good conversation about?
I think
let's
running.
talk.
Running
Well,
back.
good. Yeah.
Really? I was gonna. Well, you guys overruled me. I was gonna say wide receiver. We've
Well,
talked a lot about.
we are going to do wide receiver. That is one of the questions, but I had 3 questions, but I was going to narrow it down to 2. So we'll get into wide receiver. So we'll get both. So we'll start off with running backs because so we all know Marshawn Lynch was there last year, and he had some injuries, and then he just wasn't able to produce, and it just went out basically, and that's how he retired. And so Thomas Rawls kind of stepped up and did a great job, with taking over in that position. I think he was averaging like close to like 5 yards a game with that. But you hear a lot of talks going out there, and you got them drafting C.J. Prosise, drafting Alex Collins, and then Christine Michaels shows up, fired up, doing some damage, annihilating this preseason.
Best running back of all time kind of play.
Again.
What do you guys make of this? Do you guys draft? Do you guys feel comfortable with Thomas Rawls all season, or do you have stock in Christine Michaels?
They have to hate him. They have to hate him. There's no reason to bring that much competition unless you're hoping that he falls down and breaks his face. I don't understand.
Do you think it's a competition, or do you think it's insurance for injury because what they had to deal
with
last year?
A lot of insurance. I mean, because C.J. Prosise, I think that right off the bat, we kind of think of him as more of the Dion Lewis. He's going to be catching passes out of the backfield more than anything else. Because he's converted, right? He was a
wide receiver
and then converted over running back. So, but I don't know. That's just a lot of insurance. Like, people draft a 4th or 5th round running back as insurance. They just threw as much as they could. I mean, I don't know. That worries me.
So I've been pretty high on Rawls just because I love the way that he ran last year before he broke his ankle. Obviously, I didn't like it so much after that. But before that happened, the dude runs hard. He had something to prove. He was undrafted. If anybody's going to be Steve Slayton this year, I'm worried that it's Thomas Rawls because, you just look at the situation. He was undrafted, and Aaron Foster was in the same kind of situation where he came in and he, oddly enough, I think took over for Steve Slayton. So to use that comparison is kind of funny, but Kristen Michael doesn't scare me away from Thomas Rawls that much. But if I'm drafting Thomas Rawls, I want somebody. I want somebody else.
So then who are you taking, Alex Collins or Christine Michael? Or C.J. Prosise?
I have taken Alex Collins. I have not drafted C.J. Prosise, and I'm probably going to regret that because even I've seen him on a couple plays. I watched some tape on him. He is good. He's talented. Kristen Michael has looked so good and has played so hard. It's really hard to put down a player that finds that fire. And if he has legitimately found that fire that can fuel him, he could be the starting running back for the Seahawks. And they won't. I don't think they're not invested in Rawls. So why would they not run with that, literally and figuratively?
And in many ways, they drafted Kristen Michael in the 2nd round, and then they sent him away, and then he came back eventually. If he's going to excel, he's going to excel in Seattle.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where he's going to excel at.
Brent, what's your thoughts?
I agree with all of you, But Rawls, man, he runs so powerfully. Like, he is an injury waiting to happen. Yet I
Yeah.
am. The thing is, though, like, I am perfectly comfortable drafting Rawls in the second round. I think he is going to put up huge numbers.
The second?
Oh yeah, the second.
So why didn't you draft him in the second?
Because I didn't. There were better players.
I like it. I like your takes on it though. Like I could see it.
Once again, I keep going back to it, but it's the eyeball test. You watch that guy run last year when Lynch was down. That guy was not just he was hitting piles and pushing them. Now, then you go to this Christine Michael guy. Okay, I don't give a shit about Christine Michael unless Thomas Rawls gets hurt.
I really have to, like, the look in Romine's eyes when you were talking nice about Rawls. He was just like, yes, tell me what I want to hear.
So, I was literally getting ready to say I am enamored with Thomas Rawls, the player. Like, it does. It makes me excited. Like, I'm so ready for football to start though. Like I want to see how this is going to play out because if Rawls doesn't get on the field to start the season, I think he's in big trouble. But you can't argue if you watch tape from last year and you watch Rawls play, like he's got special talent. He really does, but dude scares the crap out of me as far as how he runs.
He played right behind Marshawn Lynch. Marshawn Lynch is known as beast mode. He pushes piles. He hits that stack and it makes them burst into Skittles. Like that's what he does. So Thomas Rawls looks like he learned everything from Marshawn Lynch. He plays with that exact same style, and he feels like mini beast mode, just a lot younger. And,
but the thing is
he
that
runs so abusively, and so he's a bruiser.
He's gotten hurt both seasons. And he got hurt because the reason why you have him on your team is because he got hurt, and I let him go, and then Van Cleef picked him up.
Right.
Like so it's one of those things that he's looked really good 2 years in a row. Both years season cut short. And it's been in limited. It's been with somebody in front of him.
2 years. He was a rookie last year.
He was a rookie last year.
Yeah,
last year.
Yeah, he was a rookie last year.
Rawls' first season was last year.
Was
you
it
drunk?
Maybe.
Yes. You lost all credibility.
I guess.
Now. But
I feel like it was 2 seasons. Okay.
No. It wasn't. But
you're thinking of Christine Michaels. You're in love with him.
You just want to forget last season. So we can all understand that. But I'm going to be honest. If Rawls comes out, starts off the season, and lights the world on fire, I'm going to be looking to trade him. Like, just speaking as a fantasy owner, because he scares me so much. If he comes out, I'm going to want to flip him for an upper echelon wide receiver, one of those top 8 guys. That's who I'm going to be going after. And that's who I would be looking to trade him for.
So
you already have him on Antonio Brown.
I'm not going to be able to trade him in Pride. In our league,
okay.
That's not going to happen. I'm giving fantasy advice, which is what this podcast is all about. As a player, if I get Rawls, and I would ride him out for 8 to 10 games, and I would be sweating bullets every game that dude was going to go down if he starts off the season that way and produces. So I would look to flip him for a higher value because I think that's something, even if his career stays on this upward trajectory, that he is going to struggle with in the future unless he changes the way he runs. And most players like that don't.
No, he's going to be bruising, and that's what he's going to be. Like if he keeps get these injuries, it will start to go downhill. Hopefully, he won't get them. I can see him if he does. It's going to be those serious injuries, like where it's broken bones.
Yeah, fractured ankles.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's a tough thing too because I had him last year, and I absolutely loved him when he was running. I mean, 5.6 yards a carry. Who can't love that? And so if it does scare me, I think CJ Proside, they brought him in not as almost like a Tyler Lockett as a special teams guy, wide receiver, and not a gadget guy, but somebody they can all purpose they can use all over. And I don't really see him as being the main 3 down back in Seattle. I think he has standalone value almost by himself.
Mm-hmm.
I pulled up the because I was trying to figure out why, for whatever reason, I broke up Rawls' situation. He this is kind of something that you have to look at too when you're drafting these other guys. Is that last year, Rawls, after Marshawn got hurt, he had 16, 17, 23 rushes and did fairly well. Then for 4 straight weeks, he didn't eclipse 6 rushes. And so it kind of seems like they only want one guy, So I think that's kind of what's scary about this situation is that whoever ends up winning out on is going to get almost everything, and that's kind of where I wonder where ProSlice is going to fit in to their system, like if it's just going to be pass catching, because after those 5 weeks or 4 weeks where he's at 1 carry, 6 carries, 4 carries, 2 carries, and then he had 30, 21, 19. So
Well,
I mean, he ended the season with so many carries and putting up insane amount of yardage, but that wasn't going to anybody else.
Well, they didn't really have anybody else. They brought in Christine Michael late in the season.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't really have anybody else behind him, and I think that's why they drafted. That's why they brought in Christine Michaels. I think for this insurance. I think if Rawls goes down, I think Christine Michaels gets the first chance, and if he doesn't, if he's not doing anything, I think it's Collins.
But what I'm saying is, right now, it's so murky who the backup really is, and they are not relevant unless Rawls gets hurt. If you look at just the stats of when Rawls was the backup, do you see it necessary to pick up any of these guys right now, or would you rather wait and kind of let it unfold, essentially?
If you got the bench spots, then I would say go ahead and lock them up. Lock up who you like. I'd be looking to lock up Michael if I'm just trying to tag somebody as a backup right now.
Redraft for leagues, Michaels. I think dynasties. You look at Collins.
I mean, just because you have no idea, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what dynasty is all about. You have no clue. But yeah, if you can lock him up, put him on taxi squad, like I did, then that's great. But I'd be looking in redraft leagues if I'm gonna handcuffing to Michael.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know if you'd want to go with Collins at all in any sort of format.
The
three guys are younger almost.
And that's
all
the
three
thing.
Guys in front of them are young guys.
If the first guy is going to basically get 95% of the load, and then the second guy, so if Steve Michael ends up being that second guy and only gets 3 or 4 touches a game, then Alex Collins is probably completely worthless, regardless of the format.
All right, so moving on to my second question. That was a good debate. I want to get into wide receivers. Last year we had the emergence of Doug Baldwin after, 40 years being in the league? So, and then you saw flashes of Tyler Lockett. And then you have, is it Jermaine Kearse? Is that correct? Or not? Am I saying that right? Okay.
Yeah, I believe you're saying that right.
Who's going to be that number one in that Seattle? Is it still Doug Baldwin, or do you think Tyler Lockett's going to move up? I mean, what do you guys think?
I'm totally feeling Lockett.
I love Lockett. Don't get me wrong, I love Lockett, and he could be the number one this year. But I think they paid Baldwin to be the receiving wide receiver. That all of them are receiving, obviously, but I guess the possession guy. He's more of a possession guy.
Do you feel that he really is the second half Doug Baldwin last year, or is he the first half and the other years that he's been there? How many years in the league has he been in?
Like 6 or 7, I think. But the thing with Doug Baldwin is he has always done well when he's got targets. Like that's if you go back and look at his game logs, like when Doug Baldwin's getting targets, he's performed well. He's just never been in positions where he was. Yeah. So I would tend to think if Seattle is going to be throwing him the ball, he is going to be successful. The thing with Lockett that worries me is I love him, but his hype is getting so strong. You're having to draft him in like the 4th or 5th round now, and that's crazy.
Yeah,
not gonna do that.
I'm a big Lockett fan, but I don't want to draft him that high.
I don't think that he has. I don't think they have the offense. I mean, I understand that they were really good with passing last year at the second half of the year. I just don't think it's going to get replicated, and you would have to replicate it to have both guys doing that well.
It would be hard to replicate it with as efficient as they were and as they just threw the ball a ton. Van Cleve, what did I offer you for Lockett? Do you even remember? Because I wanted him. Like I wanted him.
Well, I think maybe it was like a second round and a rookie draft pick or something like that.
Yeah, that seems about right. That's what I'd be looking to pay. Like if I could draft him in the 6th or 7th round in a redraft league, I'd feel pretty good about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think so too. That's a good value for him. I mean, because he's going to have some value on that team just because either special teams that he plays. But I think they want to get him more involved. He is an explosive type of player. But you are right. I think Doug Wallen's recipient of Russell Wilson's being good in that because because he's what was he in the league? Was he playing with Matt Hasselbeck? Was Doug Baldwin playing?
Oh, yeah. I have no idea.
I mean, because you had
probably if he's been in the 6th. Yeah.
Russell Wilson been in the league for 4. I mean, so 2010 would have been 6. Matt Hasselbeck was his last year, and then you had but I think maybe it is because they're actually starting to pass it because first couple of years Russell Wilson. I mean, they ran behind Marshawn Lynch in that offense. Tavares Jackson, I mean, wasn't really producing. Matt Hasselbeck was his last year, so it's maybe that's it's just we just saw that a hindrance because there was no quarterback play of Doug Baldwin. So because he wasn't this elite guy that can do it without a quarterback, but when he has a quarterback, he can be this number one guy.
Yeah, the passing game does tend to get spread out a lot too. Baldwin just was the recipient of a monstrous amount of touchdowns last year. So don't forget they re-signed Jermaine Kearse over the offseason, and they still have Tyler Lockett there too. So
yeah,
but, and then the tight end situation too. We still don't even know about that, but
yeah.
Yeah, I was just reading a report earlier tonight on Twitter. I don't even know who it was, but saying that Seattle's looking to increase Jimmy Graham's role. So,
well, they were saying that last year though.
But they died.
They were horrible at getting Jimmy Graham the ball, or Jimmy Graham was just horrible. I don't know what the problem was, but that was ridiculously bad. I
think they didn't have an identity because like Marshawn Lynch went down, and then they were just I guess not an identity, but I guess tight end's never been their identity, I should say, and so I don't think they knew what to do with the tight end once they finally got one.
Yeah, it does seem like that something was not right well before the injury because they just could not get anything going.
He was complaining that he wasn't getting the ball enough, and he was just mainly blocking. And then they tried getting them involved, and then he died. Wrong I put it.
And then he died.
So,
oh man.
I mean, are you guys targeting? And kind of pretty similar question. Are you guys targeting Jimmy Graham at all in the draft? So
very late.
Yeah,
very late.
Targeting is probably the wrong word.
But honestly, I feel like I would have to.
Would you take Vance McDonald ahead of him?
I'd have to carry 3 tight ends, honestly. I would want to stash him and just be hopeful that he could return to some form. But I wouldn't even want him being my backup because I don't know when he's coming back, what he's going to look like. I have no clue.
So you're saying you take Vance McDonald ahead of him?
Probably at this point. Like I said, Vance McDonald is just a guy that I'm just going to forget. And that's my fault, and that's shame on me. But Vance McDonald is probably going to be one of those guys that comes out kind of like a Gary Barnidge and just is like, wait, where did this guy come from? But I should know better because I've been looking at how he's played and he's looked good. So I don't know. I want Vance McDonald, but I just never am going to get him. I'll forget about him.
I want Jimmy Graham to be good this year. Like I just want him to be good.
Yeah.
But I just don't think he fits that scheme. I don't like how Seattle's used. the tight end, like you said, being clear, I think they struggle to fit it into what their identity is, and which is what I think that they're doing now. Is they traded Unger for him, and now they're trying to figure out a way that they can use him. He's not a good blocker, which is what they need their tight end to be, and
oh my God.
So
he's such a bad blocker. God, did you guys see that one play where he just literally like touched the guy and then rolled off of him?
Yep.
Like it wasn't even. It was completely just giving up. It was insane.
But I don't know. I think that, unfortunately, I think that Jimmy Graham was more of a product of the New Orleans offense than he was just a real special player. So
agreed.
I think he had the athleticism for their offense, and then just because how they utilize their tight end, it just elevated them.
And so he has what it takes to be a successful tight end. He was a basketball player, so he's tall. He can get jump balls, but I don't think he's not a Gronk or like even a Jordan Reed type talent where he's just sucking in targets. He was a product of what New Orleans did. He fit their scheme well and was successful.
There aren't a lot of pass catchers that come out of New Orleans and like just light the world on fire. It's just
all the tight ends that come out of New Orleans just get injured. It seems like.
Yeah.
Wasn't Kenny Stills out of New Orleans, right?
Yeah.
He's gonna be a sleeper this year. I'm telling you right now.
He's injured.
Kenny Stills? No, he's not.
Yeah, he just got injured.
He's got
injured.
injured.
Oh my God.
He got injured
When?
in practice.
Today?
It was today or yesterday.
Oh my God. That's good for
like-
Devontae Parker.
No, Devontae Parker got injured too.
Seriously?
Yeah, he got a hamstring injury.
Is anybody on? Is Jarvis Landry okay?
He is okay.
Okay, good.
Phew. Got a little worried there.
Wow.
All right, Van Cleve.
Carew comes out and just blows the top off of it.
I can see it.
That wraps up Seattle.
All right, man. Well, hey, thank you for that. I think that's going to wrap up our show, guys. Next week, we are going to be looking to preview week 1 of the NFL season, which is the most exciting thing I could possibly say at this point in my life.
So excited.
I'm so
football.
excited.
I need real football that matters.
And I have to work all day.
We're 9 days away.
I will be.
Single
I'll be
digits.
working 14 hours on that day, so that's pretty excited. But
I'll be off watching for you.
All right, cool. Well, thanks everybody for stopping out listening. Sorry we went so long again, but like I mentioned before, follow us on the number 4 Horseman Pod on Twitter. Email us at the number 4 horsemanpod@gmail.com, and Frill, hop on iTunes, pop us a review. Later.
Get well soon, Teddy.
See